I said, don't let me be on the phone. And they're like, good, we'll go to a place where there's no phone service. And I was stressed the whole day because I was so used to always, being in contact and texting and answering and everything. And just, it was just like an addiction. Mm-hmm. And then I remember telling my father-in-law, hey, we live in Utah. Why don't you take me mountain biking? Because he mountain biked. And so I remember going mountain biking for the first time. So I started to create these things and taking some time off. And I made $170,000 more that year.
Amazing.
So I was like, what? Because I was
There's something
refreshed.
to this advice.
Money can be complicated. Let a nerd help you. We're here to demystify the complex nature of money by getting you answers from financial nerds and whiz kids. Welcome to Ask the Money Nerds, a weekly segment of the Wealth Labs podcast where we answer your most pressing money questions. Scrimping, sacrificing, saving, delaying, investing, funding retirement. What about living life? What about enjoyment? You don't hear a lot about the percentages for that or what to do and how that could actually enhance your overall investment portfolio, your returns, and your quality of life simultaneously. Look, I get in the world of scarcity, it's an either or. Either I save money or I spend it. But we're going to look at this from a more broad perspective of you being your greatest asset as you invest in yourself and you have quality of life and experiences. You actually have more to give because of relaxation and rejuvenation, and that there's a percentage that if you set aside that you could just blow and spend on whatever you want as long as it doesn't lead to destruction, that you'll actually end up making more money over time. So Stolba, Chief of Staff Amanda Stolba, Iowa, as we like to call
Gunderson.
her sometimes. Yeah. I know this is one of your friends that sent this in.
I know. I was surprised. I read the question. You're like, this is a great question.
Yeah, I'm
we
like, I like
can't
this
wait
question,
to roll
yeah.
with it. And then I looked at who it was, and Aubrey.
All right.
Aubrey from Kansas City. And side note.
Kansas City, the Chiefs are Super Bowl champions. You know what? And Mahomes has had me won over since he started in the league, so I was excited for you.
He seems like a really great human, doesn't he?
Just seems like you got the mindset.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I don't experience.
And he looks like Roman from the eyes. If you look at my youngest son and you look
I'll
at
pay
Mahomes,
attention to that next time.
my in-laws pointed out, I'm like, yeah, it's like that determined with the sparkle. Yeah, yeah.
I love that. I love that. I don't experience FOMO too much in life, but when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl and everybody was downtown, like Sea of Red parade.
I tried to contribute to your Kansas City fund.
I know it didn't work out, but that's okay. I was there for the Royals when they won the World Series, and that was a lot of fun. Okay, so let's dive in. Let's do that. Aubrey's question says, how does the allocation of personal funds for retirement and savings change for those who plan to retire late or never retire? Is there a healthy percentage of one's income to dedicate towards life experience? There's lots of talk of how much to save and invest, but very little on what it looks like to pursue experiences for yourself and your family.
All right, so I don't really believe in the concept of retirement for people that are doing things that they enjoy. Like, I don't enjoy it. I do every moment of every day. But overall, it's something I love and I truly enjoy. So I kind of retired the notion of retirement for me personally. Mm-hmm. My dad being a coal miner, I think retirement was a really good idea, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily an inspiring job. So I think it depends on what you're doing. But if you can find something you never want to retire from, that's the holy grail when it comes to finance. Now, I want to begin by talking about economic independence. It's different than financial freedom. Financial freedom is a state of mind or being where money is no longer the primary reason or excuse you do or don't do something. Mm-hmm. Economic independence is having enough assets to create the cash flow to cover your basic expenses. Okay, so if we focus on economic independence, there's 5 levers to get there. The first one is to plug the leaks and recover cash, right? Mm-hmm. So that's efficiency, save on tax, save on interest, save on investment fees that don't perform or on insurance costs that aren't actually transferring risk. And then the second piece is to engineer wealth. So find out what your monthly expenses are, just the basics, not extravagant lifestyle, but just the basics. And then reverse engineer and say, what would you have to do to become economically independent from that? Is it pay off loans because they're, raising the bar that you have to have so much more cash flow and that's too hard, it's easier to pay the loan off than it is to create the cash flow? Or 2, what things can you do to start creating cash flow on an ongoing basis? For me, that's develop intellectual property and licensing, and that creates a recurring revenue for me. Other people, it might be real estate. Other people, they might acquire a business, right? There's different ways to do it. But going for one-time, payouts, that doesn't quite get you to economic independence. It might give you a boost, but then it's about turning that into cash flow, which takes me to the third lever, which is accelerate investment income. So what assets do you have that you can turn on to cash flow? Most people reinvest and accumulate, but if you create cash flow, that's going to create a lot more freedom to choose what you want to do in life, and that you never have to go to work unless you want to the next day. The fourth thing is to scale revenue. That's about what things can you do that improve your upside potential if you're working in an organization or as a business owner where you can invest in that business to create more return. So that might be the people that you hire, the processes you develop, or the technological procedures. The fifth one is to make it count, and this goes right to her question. How do you take care of yourself? Because you're your greatest asset, not some stock, bond, or piece of real estate, but your ability to produce value, your ability to manage energy, your ability to enjoy and love your life along the way. So Benjamin Franklin said, wealth isn't the man that has it, right, but the man that lives it. So that's really what we want to talk about here is quality of life. And when I was in my 20s, I didn't know that there was a thing called quality of life. I just knew there's a thing called work. And by the way, if you worked for me back then, you would have just hated me because it would have been like, never, so? We always got more. Like, there's more to do, Stolpa. Like, work harder. Don't take time off. You
don't get a day off.
Like, no, come on, we got more. Like, I'd be the office by 7, and I wouldn't leave till 7. And, it was all that kind of notion. But
what was the switch for you?
Well, there was a couple pieces. One was I was in Vegas, and I was getting this award for MDRT, which is like a $1 million roundtable for life insurance. And I sold life insurance till 2005 as part of the things I did in finance. And I'm getting this award, and this woman, Nancy Ogilvy, who actually I saw when I spoke at Ask Live recently. So it had been like a 15-year gap from the time of this moment. But I'm talking to her because I knew that she was part of a firm that worked with Robert Kiyosaki, and I was impressed about that, and just asking her questions. And she'd mentioned a program that we'd both gone to, and she's like, yeah, I don't really know that you've played full out, if that's what you got from it. I was like, really? She's like, and I can't wait for you to get to the next level. You get around these other people and see how they view wealth. It's not just about more. It's about quality of life. And I'm like, wait, I just got this award, but now she's challenging me, but I respected her. So I just started saying, well, can you give me an example? Can we talk through this? And she asked me a few questions, and I just said what was on my mind. And I knew how limited it was as I was saying it. But at one point she goes, what does it feel like for your wife living in the financial prison you built?
Ooh.
I was like, oh, damn. So as we lived in this crappy little apartment, making 6 figures of income, I called my wife because she was looking like, let's buy a home. And I'm giving her the most ridiculously low prices to look at, compared to our income. Like, we're making more in a year times a certain multiple versus what I'm telling her we could pay for a home. And I called and I just apologized to her. I actually broke down crying. The session lets out. People are walking by. Tears are rolling down my cheeks.
It really changed you.
Oh, it just hit me like, wow, I'm a total miser. Like, and I'm restricting any level of enjoyment because life is about what we could save, not about the enjoyment along the way. And I was in so much scarcity. I didn't know that you could have both, that you could be wealthy and enjoy life, right? That you could gain a certain steam and get what people might call rich over time without having to do it by, as a matter of fact, scrimping, saving, sacrificing was holding me back. So by letting go of that, and then I had another incident where Bab Smith, that is, married to Dan Sullivan, they created Strategic Coach, and she pulled me aside and just said, when are you going to start taking more time off? You need to take off more time. You need free time. Like,
and you're like, a vacation, what's that?
and she was even saying, like, at home, right? So I remember the first thing I did was set up a snowmobiling trip with my friends Rick and Gerald that I did financial stuff for their clients. And I said, don't let me be on the phone. And they're like, good, we'll go to a place where there's no phone service. And then I was stressed the whole day because I was so used to always, being in contact and texting and answering and everything. And just, it was just like an addiction. And then I remember telling my father-in-law, hey, we live in Utah. Why don't you take me mountain biking? Because he mountain biked. And so I remember going mountain biking for the first time. So I started to create these things and taking some time off, and I made $170,000 more that year.
Amazing.
So I was like, what? Because I was
There's something
refreshed.
to this advice.
I was, it wasn't that, I think it's really difficult to realize that the amount of time we spend on something doesn't directly equate to the amount of value that we create. And sometimes more time equals less value because we're exhausted. We lose our creativity. We become bitter. We get in fights with our family. There's just so much of that. And then you're constantly feeling this push and pull and this guilt and this shame. And so it's been a journey to figure out how to be a lot more present. But what I figured in a very practical way was I take 3% of all earnings and I set it aside in a living wealthy account. And that is money that we just spend on value-based spending or guilt-free spending, things that we really enjoy. I like buying, you've seen my Etro jackets. I love those Etro jackets. They're super pricey. Got all those in Paris, and they're extravagant and unnecessary, but I enjoy them. Or my wife likes shoes and purses, but she's really manageable about it. I'm definitely more of the spender. Or we like to, go on and stay at a nice hotel, or we like to go on trips and
get the nice wine.
Just things like that, instead of back when I was a miser and we never considered those things. So whatever quality of life is for the individual. I think the key is not to let your family, especially parents or well-intentioned, preachers, teachers, and that tell you what you should value. Like I fly, I fly first class because I can get work done. When I'm not in first class, it's a less enjoyable experience. I don't get work done. I'm uncomfortable. It takes recovery time. That is worth the extra money for me. For other people, they don't care. For people like Aaron on our team, he's got short legs. He can't even touch the back of it. He can sit back in the just messing. But it is different preferences. So I think that having 3% of your income just go to whatever you want to spend it on, that isn't your whole quality of life fund, but just making sure that if you're saving money, like 15% for yourself off the top that goes to savings, then another 3% that goes to just spending on whatever you want so you can enjoy life along the way. And then I think it's important to set aside days before the calendar gets full, just have free time. What are your hobbies? I mean, if you and I look over to this wall, and I don't know, we could film it or show some B-roll of it, but I've got a lot of ices over there. I was thinking about when we enter the lab, there's a song by, the song's called Counting Stars, and it says, everything that kills me makes me feel alive. That's what that wall reminds me of. I've got some tobacco pipes over there. I've got a lot of whiskey. We've got some coffee over there. We've got some tequila and limoncello and a few things like that. But look, these are all quality of life factors, just for me, it's what creates a satiating experience, a deeper conversation, a catalyst for those kind of things. But, I think it's great to invest in things that you've manifested all this value in the world. Now this cabin for me kind of solidifies that value. It's a physical representation to remind me of what I've been able to do for people and kind of enjoy life along the way, not waiting for one day someday, not waiting for retirement. So allocating some of that along the way is critical.
Yeah, and it's the concept of mini retirements. You talk about that a lot. It's like, how do I incorporate mini retirements not only into my week, my month, my year? And I think the wealth capture account has really allowed me to do that in my own life. And I see that there's so much more joy in my life, contentment. You talked about like conversation and connection. And I think when we take time to set aside money and we're intentional about it, we can connect with ourselves in deeper ways. We learn about who we are and how we want to operate in the world and how we can show up in bigger, just more vivacious ways in the world, but also allows us to connect with other people. I think just here at the cabin, you've brought the team up here. We've gone on Can-Am rides. We've watched a movie outside.
We watched Goonies outdoors with the fire.
It's a classic.
I did a whiskey tasting for even Stolba. Even you got involved in the whiskey tasting, although a lot of people don't drink on our team. There are a few that, it's a little poor and everybody gets
quite a lot, actually.
You actually bought me a whiskey smelling kit, right? So that you can get the sense of that. It's actually sitting up there on the shelf. So I really appreciate it. Very thoughtful gift. So this is the identifying what we want in our life and becoming the author of it, even if we don't have the resources, bandwidth, or wherewithal today. By getting clear about it, we start to create the opportunity and possibility. Then spending time with other people that value that, from the conversations I had with Nancy and Babs to, being around other people and seeing, how they operate in life. And from my friend Mo, who's on my board, how he is with his family, like just spend time with people that inspire you and that they're up to great things, because those conversations change you. Seeing how they live their life can set the bar in a fashion. And it's not about being jealous about it. It's about just acknowledging that people are living at that level, and that it actually creates a new possibility for the rest of us.
I want to emphasize that this is guilt-free.
Guilt-free spending.
Guilt-free, shame-free.
Yeah.
Because even as I started implementing this in my own life, and I started taking dance lessons, which is like by far my favorite part of the week. going to dance lessons every week. It has brought
you
so
had
much
my son with you last
joy.
night because he was supposed to go to Krav Maga, and it was apparently not happening yesterday. So
holiday
he just
we weren't aware of.
He'd go walk you. He told me I got another. I'm 10 out of 10 embarrassing when I picked him up.
Really?
That was a good moment still, but I like that.
Yeah. I love that. But just guilt-free, like sometimes for me, I think just with my upbringing, I just feel guilty about spending money on myself because I feel like it's luxurious and lavish, and it's not something that everyone in my family has been able to do. And so it's like, well, if they didn't do it, then I shouldn't spend this money on myself. And that wealth capture account has really helped me break that down and overcome that in some ways where like I can do something fun and enjoyable for myself without feeling like I've had to earn it.
Right.
It's just a part of life, and we all deserve that. We all deserve to have joy and fun and play in our life and things that make us feel more alive. And I feel like this is really, really important.
Yeah, even when we were having crazy cash crunches in 2008. Like I remember what I do for my anniversary that year. We went to our little tiny cabin that we had that was paid off, and I just created little note cards and asked questions, and I actually had her in a blindfold on the way up so she didn't know where we were going.
Oh, fun.
Right. And then I got up there and we just, I had rose petals and candles, and they were just stuff that we had around the house. Right. So you can be resourceful even during tough times. And I mean, when we were up here last weekend with our family, we just played catchphrase multiple times. I mean, that's an inexpensive game to get, and we just had a blast playing it. We laughed, super hard. So whatever quality of life is for you, and whatever stage or season of life you're in, if it's not a good time from a cash standpoint, just find what are the things that don't take money to have a good time.
Yeah.
I mean, I could think of some of our favorite times playing Uno as a family,
Totally.
right? Or
Monopoly.
just playing cards. Like we play hearts all the time, and we would play, this game called golf, which is just 8 cards, and it's kind of more of a game of luck, but it just gives you a great time to sit around and talk. And so, I think quality of life, if we neglect it, my dad said you never get to buy back the memories you never have. Yeah. And I think that quality of life being at the forefront and being instrumental of any financial plan, and then having the mini retirements along the way where there's these trips that you take that you can truly enjoy. Like I took my family to Italy, my immediate family, my parents and my siblings. And I remember we went to get wine, and my dad looked for the cheapest wine on there. I said, Dad, I don't know a lot about wine, but we're having a Brunello because I know about Brunellos. Yeah. It's a really good Italian wine. Then the next night I said, Dad, we're going to have a Barolo. I mean, we're going to have good wine. And it was a great satiating experience. And I found a way through points and all this to get first class on the flight home from Amsterdam. And I think that was my dad's favorite part of the trip. Yeah. They're serving ice cream, and they're bringing him drinks. I did it so we could sleep. So on New Year's, we could stay up when we got back to the rest of the family. But he didn't sleep because there was too many movies and enjoyable things. But those are memories that we'll have forever because we sprung a little bit more. But we're also really resourceful about getting there and intentional about how to do it. So
yeah. And how much satisfaction did you feel when you saw the look of, excitement or delight on the faces of your parents and your siblings by having that experience? It's
totally.
Like a little snapshot you're always going to remember. I can't imagine,
my great-grandfather leaving Italy could never imagine us going back there.
Yeah.
In that short of a period of time and have that much abundance. So regardless of where someone is today, just a step in the right direction, just taking the right action, just watching this and having a different paradigm that's about value creation instead of survival, and really investing in yourself, whether it's just time on a daily ritual and habit where you're doing exercise, education, and some personal enlightenment, to actually going to courses, to, it just truly investing in your skill sets by hiring someone, whatever it is, whether it's time, whether it's money, just start moving in the right direction and find ways to create quality of life regardless of your financial circumstance along the way.
Absolutely. Can I admit something to you?
What?
This weekend, I watched a documentary, the Jonas Brothers documentary.
I told you to watch it.
Okay. I was trying to remember why I was thinking about it.
I watched it over Christmas break and was like, this is awesome.
I never would have thought I watched a Jonas Brothers documentary, but there were some golden nuggets in there about how they were so successful at a young age, but their definition of success was dramatically altered by some of these experiences that they had about just striving and working and being in the limelight. And, that really just stood out to me about, I don't know which Jonas brother it was.
And they're living in their small house, writing their first songs is some of their most fun memories.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Which they just need a guitar and sitting around. Right?
Yep.
So I think that it could be very easy to get caught up in materialism.
Yeah.
And there's some things that are worth the money, and there's a lot of things that aren't. And a lot of times we miss out along the way. I think about college and how much fun I had in college without much money. We had a great time.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, once I, look, just enjoy the victories along the way, because the journey is the win.
Yes.
The vision is the win.
Yes, it is.
The destination, if it becomes all there is typically disappointing.
Yeah.
Hit the Inc. 500 and New York Times bestseller list in the same week that I lost $200,000 in real estate. I didn't enjoy the destination of the 2 accolades I was aiming for and I was all about one day, someday. Sacrifice is actually killing us. It's giving up the greater version of who we are because we put everything on. I'm doing it for everyone else. If you do that as a sacrificial person yourself, you're going to never quite have the life you want. And I think it's an easy excuse. If we just always put our investment in someone else and never in ourselves, we're a shell of who we could be, and we end up getting bitter, frustrated, and lose who we are. So that was a lot for one question here, Stolba. We covered a lot. We've talked for quite a while, but ask your questions, askthemoneynerds.com. You've got questions. We'll find the answers if we don't have them, because we're pretty resourceful. But today, I had the answer.